Olá, está no ar mais um Nuclearcast, seu canal sobre o setor nuclear no Brasil. Eu sou Emanuelle Bordalo e apresento esta temporada a convite da ABEDAN, Associação Brasileira para o Desenvolvimento de Atividades Nucleares. Hoje eu tenho o prazer de receber no nosso estúdio Néstor de Lourenço. Ele é conselheiro de negócios nucleares da INVAP na Argentina. Hi, Nestor, how are you?
Very well, very well. Actually, when you're in Brazil, the only option is to be happy.
Não é problema.
Really no problem.
Perfect. Nestor, Argentina has a tradition of the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Like, what has helped the country build up these capacities over time?
Let me put it this way. Somehow I am a product of this process because since I started university, I was linked with the nuclear program in Argentina. And considering the, let's say, contributors to this success, I would say that perhaps human factor is the main one. I received my degree, my master degree, under a scholarship paid by the Atomic Energy Commission in Argentina. So, and this continues even today. So we have a commitment to produce human resources that somehow are being nurtured in our culture, in nuclear, of course, and later on are absorbed by the companies that we have within the country. The Atomic Energy Commission somehow is the umbrella covering all this, let's say, human resources development, but it's also the one that establishes companies that are, how can I say, really active and committed and strategically following the same concept from the beginning, from the time in which these companies were created up today, in terms that the market change, the technology change or evolve, better yet, but nevertheless, this company keeps the original, how can I say, spirit in research, in developing products that will provide sustainability to the nuclear processes, that will somehow report benefits, net benefits to the population. That at the end of the day is the objective of the safe and peaceful application of the nuclear energy. So human resources, organizations such as the Atomic Energy Commission or companies like INVAP, somehow these are key factors for providing resources and also continuity. Another thing that perhaps is important is that Argentina, every time that we step into a new application of nuclear technologies, perhaps at the beginning we try to observe what's going on in the international markets, but as soon as we acquire expertise on the field, we try to adopt or to promote native technologies. Therefore, many facilities in Argentina were provided by external international suppliers, but when the time passed, we developed our own designs. A clear example are the nuclear reactors. We have reactors that came from Germany, reserve reactors, I am saying, not power reactors. And suddenly, after an analysis on the designs that we received, we developed our own design. And since 1980, that we are producing the engineering, constructing, and commissioning our own reserve reactors. RA6 is a reactor using for training, for developing human resources. It's a really nice tool. I had been there for many years as a student, later on as a reactor manager of the facility. And currently, for instance, it's being used for train people from abroad, from different countries that would like to understand how a reserve reactor works. After that, the RA8 is also an active technology, an active reactor, and currently we are designing and constructing. The construction is finished. The installation process is being finalized these days, and most probably next year, the reactor will be fully operative, is the RA10. Also, it's an active technology. So in other areas, such as the enrichment of uranium, we also explore technologies available worldwide, but later on we decided to develop our own processes. So this is another factor that contributes to this, how can I say, success, as you mentioned, as you asked for, in the peaceful application of the nuclear technologies. And last but not least is the transparency in the process. Transparency not only in terms of communicating to our, let's say, population what are the benefits of the nuclear technology, but also how we operate, how we comply with standards, regulations, how we develop our activities in a safe manner for the whole population. This transparency also permeates into an international transparency. We were always open. We opened the doors to the International Atomic Energy Agency for visiting our facilities. We never put, how can I say, barriers to international inspectors. And in this regard, we have an agreement with Brazil that is called the INVAP, that is a clear example on how we establish a transparent relationship with a neighbor country in order that our activities can be, let's say, checked, and we can demonstrate that we are applying all of our technology, our knowledge, our know-how in developing peaceful application of the nuclear technology. I think that these are the four factors that perhaps contributes more to this succeed in the nuclear field.
Perfect. And for those who are not familiar with it, how could you describe like the Argentinian nuclear program today? How many plants the country have? The country is investing in SMRs. Just briefly, like for those who don't know.
Oh, well, I am just back from being the director of the company branch in the Netherlands, because we are developing a reactor for the Netherlands that will be producing radiopharmaceuticals for the European market. So I'm not totally familiar on the last, let's say, update of the Argentinian plans. But since the very beginning, the important is there is a plan. Time to time, the administrations change and the priorities change. The economic, let's say, situation also influence the progress of a nuclear plant. When I start in the nuclear business in my country, I remember we created ENACE, a company for developing nuclear power plants in the country. But this was later on considered not a priority. So the nuclear plant at that time was somehow was slowed down. And across the time, we have, let's say, I don't know if the proper word, but some sort of renaissance of the nuclear activities in the country. So new facilities were, let's say, proposed, and the program gained momentum. Time to time, the program has been put in a freezer for a while, but currently, I think that is in the media. We are active. My company, in particular, has the patent of a reactor that is called the ACR 300. That is an SMR. It's a patent valid in the USA. Previously, we, together with Atomic Energy Commission, we developed the current reactor. And if you consider that the last letter of CAREM is an M, it's for modular, as well as the small modular reactor. So this was another project that we started many years ago, and we contribute with the technology for developing this line of reactors. So I'm not fully aware on the nuclear plants in Argentina, but the continuity of having a plan and that all the companies in the sector led by the Atomic Energy Commission contributes to the progress of the plan is what is really important.
Great. And what lessons does Argentina's experience hold for the region? Like, in your view, is Latin America advancing as it should in the nuclear field?
Well, the progress in Latin America is uneven. You have countries like Brazil, like Argentina, in which the nuclear technologies are being applied. The There are many reserve reactors in our countries. We have nuclear power plants. We have also active institution organizations in nuclear activities. In the rest of Latin America, the development is not so, let's say, active like here. Chile, they have 2 reserve reactors, but are not being utilized at the maximum of their capacities. Bolivia is now waiting for a small reactor for starting nuclear applications. But in these 2 countries, for instance, you see that the objective is to have facilities that are perhaps technologies coming from abroad instead of developing native designs. That, as I mentioned, is what we did in Argentina with the RA6, the RA8, and what is also done here in the IPEN in Sao Paulo. You have reactors that were designed by you. So there is a step that should be perhaps started in other countries in the region, that is to start developing native technologies. On the other hand, and now with all this, let's say, integration that we are having in terms that everything is available by using a video conference, you can be in contact with colleagues that are perhaps 2,000 miles away from your place. I think that these countries should take into consideration the possibility for integrating with Brazilians and Argentinians that are leading the nuclear applications in South America. But for this, we need to provide them trust that we will not try to, influence their own development. Of course, every country will like to preserve the sovereignty in developing a nuclear plant. But considering that there are countries in the region able to provide the same, let's say, facilities or the same know-how or knowledge that are being provided by large countries that perhaps they have 20 clients at the same time, so will not be putting the same, priorities in countries in Latin America. Perhaps this is what we need to have. Once again, our perhaps suggestion for this country or the key factors to be imitated are to start thinking on the national development. I have seen this week a presentation of the CNEN. It's not in Portuguese, CNEN, but it's difficult to pronounce. The CNEN is developing the idea of building not SMRs, but micro reactors, much smaller than an SMR. And they are putting as a requirement for this development that should be made internally. This is the way of thinking, I guess, to think that in the long run, you need to develop the technology in-house rather than being always dependent on other countries far away with different cultures, with different perhaps interests than the ones that we have here in Latin America.
That's a great advice. And a good example of regional cooperation is the Brazilian multipurpose reactor, RMB, which has Argentine participation. Could you explain more about this initiative and its possible impact for both countries?
This is, for me, is something personal, I would say, because I have the chance to participate in the process. In 2008, there was a meeting of an organization called COVEN. COVEN is the Commission Bilateral for Nuclear Energy, and it's bilateral because it's Argentina and Brazil. There were a meeting at presidential level, but with the support of the, let's say, academics and nuclear organizations, they developed some sort of common interest. And one of the common interests identified was to have a reserve reactor, state-of-the-art, producing radioisotopes for medical and industrial applications, and also helping the country to develop new materials, new fuels for power reactors and alike. So Few years later, in 2010, I was accompanying the two institutions, the Atomic Energy Commission in Argentina, CONEA, and the Nuclear Energy Commission in Brazil, CENEN, to Australia. At that time, the Australia were initiating the operations of the Opal reactor. The Opal reactor was a reactor designed by INVAP, or INVAP in Portuguese. And the design was so attractive for the two institutions that the two of them decide to make a program and to hire the services of INVAP for the nuclear portion of the program. So, as you mentioned minutes ago, my company was involved in the design of the Brazilian reactor, as well as we were involved in the design of the RA-10 reactors in Argentina. Both reactors are, how can I say, updates and upgrades of the Australian reactor, adapted to the local interest. There are many differences that, although the components are quite similar, and this was beneficial for both institutions because they save money. At the end of the day, the engineering hours were lower than if you are running just one project. As we were running the two projects in parallel, we were sharing cost. And therefore, the reactors were designed attending or transforming this architecture of proven solutions into the specific interest. And the R&B has, how can I say, 100% of the system design targeting the interest and the expectation of the CENEN in Brazil. The RA-10 is quite similar. In the future, the two of them will be operating and perhaps will be sharing staff, maintenance team, spare parts between the two facilities because are quite comparable. So for me, the Brazilian experience was wonderful because I have a chance to understand the requirements of your country in terms of production, research, and adapt a design for the Brazilians, let's say, expectations. The R&B is called to be a leader in producing isotopes for medical applications in Brazil. So the, let's say, impact in the public health will be massive, massive. As per today, you are producing some portions, but most of the products are imported radionuclides. In the future, with the R&B, you will be able to support the whole country and to have some extra for exporting into the region. And moreover, when the RA-10 is stopped for maintenance, you may supply products to Argentina and the other way around. When the R&B is stopped, the RA-10 may be able to provide the isotopes to the Brazilian population. So it has been a win-win relationship. INVAP was really proud to participate in both of them. And as it was mentioned in the opening ceremony by the Dr. Francisco Rondinelli, the president of the CENEN, we just signed, my company signed a contract for the developing of the radioisotope production facility that is attached to the R&B. The R&B will be the machine producing isotopes, but in order that these isotopes are being distributed into the population for medical applications, you need to do some processes. This facility will be located in the same site of the R&B, and altogether will be a complex satisfying not only these isotopes for medical application, but also for industry, and also the development of new material, new applications, and research, pesquisas, as you said. Mm-hmm. So it will be a large room in which you will be able to receive a lot of researchers from around the world. I am, in this regard, I am a little bit, how can I say, jealous, because the RA-10 will also be featuring this. But I think that the people will prefer to come to the R&B for running experiments rather than the R&N due to the environment. You know what I am saying.
Yes. Who says Brazil and Argentina could not be friends? We have a nice partnership here, a good example of a partnership of sex.
Indeed, indeed. As I mentioned, there was a commercial advantage in terms that the engineering hours being used for the system that were common were reduced for the two for friends at the end of the day, the CONEA and CENEN. And on the other hand, in the future, this will make a synergic collaboration. Your operators will be able to travel to Argentina for helping the Argentinian operators in improving some activities, and the other way around, and vice versa.
That's great. And beyond technical cooperation, do you believe that the nuclear area can play like a more strategic role in South America integration? Because like we mentioned, like an example of a partnership, do you think this could be happening in a more broad and
aspects? It's true. There are two, let's say, activities that somehow require state-of-the-art engineering practices: aviation and nuclear. And both industries are producing a heavily impact in the local institutions in the country in which the activities are performed. Embraer here is also promoting a lot of parceiros, I think that you said in Brazil, subcontractors. They are potentiated this, and the same is happening in the nuclear business. Our experience developing facilities in countries in which the technology was not well developed. We developed facilities in Algeria, in Egypt, in the 90s, a century ago, more or less. Well, at that moment, we contacted the local suppliers, and we induced an improvement in their processes in order to be qualified for producing nuclear-grade components. You need to have quality assurance. You need to have quality control. All the manufacturing process should be put it in a how can I say, orderly manner. And all of this contributes to the development of industries that perhaps in the future will be providing components to oil and gas, to mining, all the contributions. So the nuclear technologies helps, let's say, other industries in achieving a safety, a quality level that is later on able to be applied in other technologies. And as I mentioned before, considering that Brazil and Argentina, we are leaders in nuclear, perhaps this is another integration factor for the region. We can provide, I have seen many presentations during this week in this meeting in which CENEN is proposing to the industries, paint, makeup, just name it, with they offer opportunities for improving the processes that they are running, for being more friendly with the environment, for being more sustainable, for reducing the impact into the environment. And at the end of the day, this could be also exported to other countries in the region. So I think that is a good, let's say, tool for integrating the region.
Perfect. Nestor, thank you very much for your participation. Muchas gracias.
Obrigado. Muito obrigado. Gracias.
Foi so nice to have you here. Eu quero também agradecer a nossa audiência que nos acompanhou até aqui e a equipe da Abedan pelo espaço para a gente ter conversas tão qualificadas. Até o próximo episódio. Um abraço.